Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, Mariah Carey rode the New York City subway in a fancy gown.
I'm Tony Kornheiser, and yet when I do that, it's called disturbing.
I got some news here for you. This is breaking news.
What?
When you and Dennis Rodman do it, it's disturbing.
Yeah, you know, Mariah Carey's a Long Island girl. You know that.
I know. You told me that since she was 19.
Long Island's own Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Fancy gown. Good to know. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Spurs win big, the Texans ban segways, and the Rangers advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. But we begin today with the likelihood that the new owner of the Los Angeles Clippers will be Steve Ballmer, former CEO of Microsoft. The reported price is $2 billion, which is almost $1.5 billion more than anyone has ever paid for an NBA team, an outlandish beaming of the price. Wilbon, is this the best possible ending?
Yes, Tony. I know it's a surprise ending for you because just yesterday and the day before that and the day before that and the day before that and the week before that, I would tell you 1.5, and you say 1.5, that's insane. Well, if 1.5 was insane, how about 2?
This is insane.
And so the league has to be thrilled, Tony, on a lot of levels. I mean, but the first one is you apparently get Donald Sterling off the stage.
Right.
You now completely dominate with a new story and a new theme, and a franchise that was thought of as just the laughingstock of the league is now worth so much money. It's just unreal that this could be happening, and great for the league.
Yeah, I think it's a big win. I think the only person in the entire league that could possibly be upset is Magic Johnson, because he might have wanted the team and he's not going to get it. But Ballmer is a guy who tried to buy the Bucks and he tried to buy the Kings, and he's a big-time sports fan. And I think there's another thing here, too, and this is one of the reasons the league ought to get out of the way on this. Don't make your owners kick out one of their partners. If you can avoid that vote, and this allows them to
perhaps, Tone. I mean, you know, we've still got the issue out there of Donald Sterling and what we believe about Donald Sterling, and there are reports now about his own health and about
mental incapacitation.
The capacity for him to move forward.
That's being leaked by his wife, and the league should stay out of that. Let them fight that out,
right.
The Sterlings. But this thing is a big win for the owners. And, by the way, it is a big win for the players because it happened with unbelievable speed, Mike.
Yes.
It really did. And everybody can say, you know what? We got an owner who's paying tons of money. Not only didn't Donald Sterling devalue the team, the value of the team went crazy. I don't see a loss here. Unless he says, I'm going to move the team to Seattle, he's not going to do it.
He's not going to do that, Tony. He wanted to move the team to Seattle. But, yes, it looks like win, as long as this actually happens.
Yes.
If they can avoid voting to kick a guy. But I tell you what it shows, Tony, those other billionaires understood that Sterling was bad for business, even though the sale of the Clippers is good for business.
It is
very good.
It is good.
Tony, let's stay with the Clippers, but extrapolate a little bit. There are NBA observers who wonder if a string of owners will now want to sell their franchises in the wake of this news. And there's a league full of players, as you alluded to, who wonder what this incredible windfall might mean for them. And what about glamorous franchises throughout North America, like, say, the Lakers? Tone, if you owned the Lakers in the same building as the Clippers, would you be thinking about selling the franchise today?
Well, I would have to. You know what? If I owned any team in the league at the moment, I would have to think about selling it. If Steve Ballmer has a brother, I would call him up, and I would say, would you buy this team? Because you just paid $2 billion for a team that doesn't even own the building that it plays in. Let's just go back just a few years. Everybody knows about the $550 million for Milwaukee. Right. But just 3 years ago, the Philadelphia 76ers, a much more accomplished franchise than the Clippers, went for $287 million. So that's like now in 3 years, it went up 8 times?
Yeah.
Like, you have to ask, can I get that price?
I mean, we got a couple of things at work here. We have now in this culture, in North America, but worldwide, but we have so many billionaires, people who want these franchises, whether they want them as toys or investments, whatever their personal agendas are. They can afford to buy them outright. Ballmer, not even needing a group.
Cash.
You know, with cash, with a personal worth of said to be $20 billion is unthinkable. But, Tony, let's go to the other end of the spectrum here and look at the workforce. Look at the players who, by the way, drove in some ways the selling of the Clippers with the pressure they put on the league. Those players, when they get to another collective bargaining session, are going to say, wait a minute. I talked to a couple of club executives who think the average player in the NBA in the next agreement or the next one after that will wind up at about $7 million per, because the franchises are going to be worth that and the television contracts are going to drive everything up.
Well, I mean, people talk about television contracts like cable TV feeds the universe, and I don't think it does. If I'm going to pick between players and owners at a bargaining table, I'm going to pick owners. I think the players are going to do fine, but I think that the owners, Ballmer is such an outlier, Mike. It's so much money compared to everybody else.
He's the outlier of outliers, but then there's so many people. Tony, there are other people who bid 1.4 and 1.6 on the Clippers. Don't act like this guy's the only guy who's got money out there who can buy a franchise.
He's the only guy who's put up the money so far.
So far.
The worst conference final in memory continued on its lopsided pace last night. The home team won again by a stupid margin. San Antonio went plus 28 on Oklahoma City. Home teams have won every game so far by an average of 20 points. Serge Ibaka, not the wonder dog everyone had come to believe in. He was apparently spooked by Matt Bonner, despite the Red Rockets' triple bagel. Wilbon, now who is in control of this awful series?
Nobody's in control. It's a wonderful series. It's compelling. I don't care how lopsided the games are. If you love the intrigue of figuring out in this chess match who has got the upper hand even for one night, this is a wondrous series. No, the games aren't, taking you to overtime or that sort of thing. But, Tony, for somebody who's actually watching the series, and I know I'm singular on that in this conversation.
I watch.
This is a compelling series. When you go back to Oklahoma City, it doesn't matter what the Spurs do in San Antonio, because Game 6 is in Oklahoma City.
That's right.
And that superb athleticism. Steve Kerr was on to this. He thought those guys, particularly Russell Westbrook, might be tired coming into the game and said that at the end of Game 4. They did look tired, but it doesn't mean they're going to be tired when they go to Game 6 now
they're going to win
in Oklahoma City with a chance
There
to tie.
is no reason to believe that Oklahoma City won't win Game 6 at Oklahoma City. The problem for Oklahoma City is visible when you watch the post game and you see Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook look deflated and forlorn in San Antonio, where they would have to go back for a Game 7. If you were to ask me, for example, is Greg Popovich a better coach than Scott Brooks? Of course, I would say yes. If Matt Bonner getting 0-0-0, if he somehow wins the game, that's a great move. But you run out of moves. Unless he's bringing Bob Cousy in for the next game, you'll run out of moves.
Well, Tony, who's going to run out of moves first? Once they go to Oklahoma City, and I think we both would say we expect the Thunder to win Game 6 and force to Game 7, then who's out of moves? Who's got another move to make in Game 7 in San Antonio?
That's why I would probably, in a Game 7, pick the more athletic, younger team.
Ooh, that's me. You. That's called intrigue.
That's me. But, I don't watch as much as you.
No, I know. You can watch that. Oh, wait, not a noon game. I don't know if you can make Game 7. We got postscript on Steve Kerr and Phil Jackson not hooking up in New York, Tone. Phil tells reporters essentially he let Kerr out of a verbal agreement to coach the Knicks so Kerr could pursue the Golden State Warriors job, which he then took. Phil was certain enough that it would happen. He told Carmelo Anthony Kerr would be the next coach of the Knicks. So, Tony, should Phil have released Kerr from this verbal commitment?
Yes. And that's a hard call. And I don't think he would have been petty to say, I'm not going to release you. But, yes, they presumably have a friendship across a lot of borders. And he wanted to hire Steve Kerr, and he might have recognized that the Golden State job was a better basketball job. In terms of location, it was better for Steve Kerr, who lives in California. I mean, I think this story shines a very soft light on Phil Jackson, and he's got his reasons for doing it. But I think he did the right thing. If you have that kind of friendship, that's the right thing to do, don't you?
Yes, Tony, I completely agree with you. And if we remember how this story, the context of it, it was always framed in Phil Jackson looking to one of his favorite players, and Steve Kerr looking back fondly at his mentor and one-time coach, and that the relationship would sort of drive Steve Kerr's ability to coach that team at a difficult time. They don't have players, they don't have money yet. All of those things were framed in their relationship. So if we are to believe that relationship is genuine, this is what I would expect.
Yeah, this is what you're supposed to do.
Phil Jackson would say, I want you here, but I care about your life. And he could have. But, Tony, then it would have been strained going in, right? There could have been resentment.
There's another part of this story that intrigues me, and it's about Carmelo Anthony. It's not the fact that Phil told Carmelo he'd be the coach. It's that Phil is now apparently saying publicly that maybe Carmelo would opt in for just one more year and then become a free agent after this. And this is setting up next year as the opt-in year for everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, LeBron could opt in, Carmelo, Kevin Love could end up staying in Minnesota a year. And then in 2014-15, then all hell breaks loose, right? Because
that
Steve
means
Ballmer
everybody
buys every
tanks
player
again next year. The whole league must be tanking.
Well, you know, Steve Ballmer ends up buying everybody inside. Despite your prediction, Mike, the New York Rangers not only beat the Montreal Canadiens last night, they shut them out.
They were great.
Henrik Lundqvist was brilliant. One save he made was absolutely jaw-dropping. So the I-95 Rangers, they're in the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in 20 years, and they will either play the defending Stanley Cup champions from Chicago, the number 3 market in the country, or the Los Angeles Kings, the 2012 champs, from the number 2 market. Wilbon, are either of these series the kind that creates a national breakthrough for the NHL?
Tony, I think so. And I think the series that would have created the biggest breakthrough would have been a rematch. Bruins, Blackhawks, because of the nature of that series and fanatic big markets. And the dirty little secret here is they're not paying attention in Los Angeles. The television numbers are out. You got the 1.7 rating. The rating is dwarfed by the people watching in Chicago. Chicago, you've got just like 600,000 homes watching versus like 190 in Los Angeles, which doesn't really make sense. They're not paying attention in Los Angeles. It's barely on the radar. So when you can get an original 6 situation, you get Chicago, New York. That's the matchup that you would think NBC would be hoping for.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure this is the formula. Contrary to my population theory, which I use in soccer, I don't use it in hockey. I think if your stars on the Kings and the Rangers are your goalies, you're asking casual fans to walk in to a game they should be excited about 1-0. I don't think that's how you do it. I think that Taves and Kane might be able to bring people in. But I think to make the breakthrough with casual fans, you need stars who are goal scorers, Mike. They're not goal stoppers. They're goal scorers.
Tony, maybe so. But when you look at it also, the Blackhawks following carrying like 35% of the national following. Look, that number, Tony, if the Blackhawks get in the finals and they have a tough time tonight,
they're fine, but
Game
I don't
6
think
in Los Angeles.
I'm saying I don't think the Rangers bring that much to the table.
The Rangers are going to bring numbers. First, come on, you know this, an event in New York. If you weren't paying attention in New York until now, the fact that it's an event and the Rangers are in the finals for the first time in 20 years, come on, I think
it's not like
Chicago.
No, Mike, it's not like Messier. It's not like Messier. It's not. Let's take a break. But coming up, how should the Heat feel if the Pacers win again tonight?
Plus, baseball's hottest hitter, golf's most up and down player. What's the word is next? Tony, there's going to be 1 million people watching in Chicago, 1 million households, if the Blackhawks can win tonight in Game 7 and make it to the final. 1 million.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron,
comes alive.
The NBA.
The Miami Heat have won the 2013 NBA title.
Major League Baseball.
The Boston Red Sox have won the World Series.
The Bowl Championship Series.
The tide has risen again. The 3rd time in 4 years.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Time for the game that people in fake kitchens have no chance of winning. What's the word? Word up reality. What's first?
I don't know about that. You give me a Poppy in that kitchen. He's winning this game.
Poppy?
A Pacers win tonight would make things blank for the Heat.
Make them scary. This series should be over already. The referees were the determining factor in the previous game. Now, Miami Heat is a far better team than Indiana. And LeBron James is by far the best person on the court. So if by some way Indiana were to win this game and reduce the series to 1 game Indiana where actually anything could happen, that's very scary. I expect Miami to win big. I expect LeBron to have game over 30 points, and I have no idea who Lance Stevenson is going to blow kisses at in this game.
Nobody, because he says he's not going to do it. A win tonight for the Pacers would make things sweaty for Miami. Sweaty because you got to go back up to Indianapolis. And what you said, Tony, Game 7, who knows? Look, people have spent the last couple of years comparing LeBron James to, Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. Now they're doing who's the best small forward, blah, 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 Magic Johnson. Here's what they did. If somebody dared talk too much trash to them or blow in their ear or knock them down or treat them the way Lance Stevenson did, they crushed people the next game. It's a kill shot. That's what I'm expecting from LeBron James tonight. A killer game.
Next.
Baseball now. It's time we call Edwin Encarnacion what he is. A blank.
He is a meteor. He is the brightest flame in the sky right now. I mean, his home run production is great. He had 2 again last night. That is the 5th time this month he's had 2 home runs in one game. He has 16 in May. That ties Mickey Mantle's American League all-time record for the month of May. But he's also 31 years old. He's been in the league 10 seasons now. He averages 21 home runs. So like a meteor, he'll flame out a little bit down the road, but right now he's bright.
Remember when those seats used to be full in that stadium for years and years and years? They draw nearly 4 million people. Maybe they'll come back now that team's playing so well, and they got this star. He's a late bloomer, Tony. You can do this in baseball. We see power numbers sometimes come late. Big Papi had his first great home run season at 28 years old. A really good one at 27. He's been in the league for a while. We see this frequently where guys come into their late 20s, early 30s. He can keep this going for 3 or 4 more years before that flame out, late bloomer.
Next.
Like his own teammate, Jose Bautista. Next, Rory McIlroy's game right now is blank.
It's a puzzlement right now. He was great at the BMW on Sunday. Shot a 66 on Sunday, charged back from 7 strokes down. He opened the Jack Nicklaus tournament with a phenomenal, what did he shoot, 63. He was 9 under. And then he followed that today by coughing up a hairball, and he goes +6 with 3 straight double bogeys, which is called around my house a Kornheiser. All right, so I mean, I know that Tim Fincham would love him to be the #1 player in the world, but he takes 1 step forward and then he takes 1 step back. My first rounds this year, 32 under in the first round, 19 over in the second.
Well, Tony, you know, he's a work in progress because he doesn't grind. And that's the one thing we got so used to with Tiger. He would take a round and look like it could be 77 and turn it into 71. Rory's doing just the opposite. A round that we think he ought to come in at 71 or even par, he goes 78. So that's what I'm saying, work in progress. Until he can add that to his game, he's not going to be the kind of #1 we're talking about. You know how I always say there's another train coming? There's another round coming. The 3rd round for Rory can be just fine.
Next.
Last one. This shot attempt by Gael Monfils is blank.
It's deceiving. If you look at the still photograph, he looks like Bobby Orr laying out, making one of the great shots of all time. But when you see the actual video, he overruns on the previous shot, which he has to do. He gets faked out by his opponent, and he throws himself, at the ball. So the still photograph proves that, a picture is worth 1,000 deceiving words.
Well, Tony, regardless of the still photograph or the video, it's acrobatic.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, he does make that play into the corner where he has run out of court space. And then, for those of us who have played and covered a lot of tennis, he's wrong-footed by his opponent on the very next shot. Most people cannot even get themselves stopped, turned like a contortionist, and in position to even make a swing at the next shot. Well, people keep trotting off and clap their racket and say, nice shot.
I mean, it goes out of bounds. He did everything he could do there.
He did.
And it went out of bounds.
And it's more than most, even though he couldn't get the shot back.
That's it. Korn nailed it. Time for a break, but on the way, the man they call Country Breakfast gets thrown out at first, hello, by an outfielder.
Only a baseball nickname that could be. Plus, an NFL team bans segways. And Mark Sanchez says he's entering his prime.
By the way,
he's going to Prime 112 down here tonight with me.
Monfils can really dance.
Can he?
Oh, yes. Really dance. Happy time, people. Happy 71st birthday tomorrow to Joe Namath. Hollywood Reporter says that the long-rumored Joe Namath biopic is gaining steam after Walk the Line director James Mangold signed on to the project. Wilbon, who should play Joe Willie in the movie?
Joe Willie.
Wait.
Joe Willie's he's like James Bond. Joe Willie can just keep going. I want to see Joe Willie Namath as Joe Willie Namath.
Reality thinks Bradley Cooper would be good. Happy anniversary, Cal Ripken Jr. On this day 32 years ago, Ripken began his record streak of playing in 2,632 consecutive games. Wilbon, you and I were at the game where Cal broke Lou Gehrig's record of 2130. The current leader, Hunter Pence, is at 226. That's a joke.
So, the Uber generation, they don't work every day. They got to be picked up and fluffed. They don't, working every day, grind. They don't grind either.
Happy Trails, Billy Butler. Watch here as the man they call Country Breakfast gets thrown out at first after hitting what 99.9% of the time is a single to right. We talked earlier about Edwin Encarnacion and how great he's been. Here's the best player on that team, Jose Bautista, gunning down Butler.
You know what, Tony? You don't see that often. That's a softball play. Somebody in right field, co-ed softball, throwing a guy out at first. Come on.
Sort of amazing. Time to find out where we messed up, Reali.
I got Bradley Cooper. I got one of the Hemsworth brothers, as Joe Willie named it, a little bit younger. Another happy trails today. Giants released Josh Freeman, quarterback, who they just signed about a month ago. Yes, he hasn't even played any games in the last month.
Lots of happy trails for Josh Freeman.
Also, NBC News reporting Donald Sterling planning to sue the NBA after today's news for $1 billion.
When do we get the report that Donald Sterling's suing himself?
Here we go to big
You're going to
finish.
get that soon.
Yeah,
Let's do
enough of that. Cardinals linebacker Darrell Washington suspended for the entire 2014 season for a repeat violation of the NFL substance abuse policy. Is that a big loss?
For him, yeah. For the team and the league, probably not. Mark Sanchez says he's entering the prime of his career. Tony, I bet you agree.
Well, I agree chronologically, but at what point, who's going to give him the opportunity? I don't see that happening. Bill O'Brien is banning Texans players from getting around on segways. Do you think that that's a good move?
I probably do, Tone. I hate to sound like a coach, but those things can only mean one thing, injury. Cubbies selling a folding chair that Tanaka sat in. The top bid is $310. You interested?
$310? That's the top bid? I mean, somebody called Steve Ballmer. Come on, you get this for under $2 billion probably, don't you think? Last one, Josh Beckett goes for the Vandermeer tonight. Do you think he'll get it?
Pirates and Dodgers, 2 no-hitters, back-to-back. No, not going to happen.
We're out of time, and we will try to do better the next time. I am Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, knuckleheads. Check out the PTI podcast on iTunes.
Robin Buffalo, shout out. 2 birdies today. Very impressive.
PTI.